The baby shower was supposed to be a joyful occasion. Laughter echoed around the room, vibrant decorations adorned every corner, and the aroma of fresh pastries filled the air. Jennifer moved among the guests, her smile carefully crafted, masking the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. She wanted to celebrate, to embrace the happiness that surrounded her. But deep down, a storm raged. Then, she overheard it, a casual remark that sent chills down her spine. "Did you hear? Sarah said she's dead." Confusion gripped her heart. Dead? How could her daughter claim such a thing? Hurt twisted in her stomach, and a whirlwind of anger and concern spiraled within her. Why would Sarah say something so shocking? What could possibly lead her to make such a claim? Jennifer's mind raced, reflecting on the past months. She thought of Sarah's struggles, the times she had tried to reach out, only to be met with silence. There was a heaviness in the air between them, a distance that had grown wider with each passing day. Was it something she had done? Was she responsible for this? The questions hung in the air like a dark cloud, threatening to burst. As she forced herself to mingle, Jennifer's gaze drifted toward Sarah, who stood at the edge of the gathering, her eyes downcast. Something was wrong, very wrong. Jennifer felt a pang of guilt. Had she missed the signs? She thought about the pressures that weighed on her daughter, the expectations, the comparisons to her own achievements. Sarah had always been sensitive, but this was different. The family had always been close-knit, bound by strong Christian values. Love was their foundation, love that showed through actions, that held them together during the toughest storms. Yet, now, as Jennifer watched her daughter from afar, that love felt fragile. Memories flooded back, bedtime prayers, family dinners filled with laughter, the warmth of shared moments. But something had shifted. The laughter now felt distant, the bond strained, as if they were two ships passing in the night. Jennifer remembered the time Sarah had been so proud of her art project, only to be crushed by a thoughtless comment from a schoolmate. "You're not good enough." Those words had cut deep, and Jennifer had tried to comfort her, to remind her of her worth. But the shadows of insecurity had lingered, growing into something darker. And now, here they were, in the midst of what was supposed to be a celebration, and all Jennifer could feel was a growing chasm between them. The church community had always been their refuge, a place where they could turn for support and encouragement. But lately, Sarah seemed to withdraw, her faith challenged by feelings of inadequacy. Jennifer's heart ached for her daughter. She wanted to reach out, to bridge the gap, but how could she when Sarah was so adamant about pushing her away? The warmth of the gathering felt suffocating as the truth loomed larger. "Jennifer?" A voice called her back to the present. It was Elizabeth, a close family friend. "Are you okay? You seem a bit off." "Just a little overwhelmed," she replied, forcing a smile. But inside, she felt like she was hanging by a thread, desperately trying to hold on to the pieces of a family that seemed to be unraveling. As the afternoon wore on, Jennifer found herself increasingly anxious. She glanced at Sarah again, who was now talking quietly with a couple of friends, her laughter forced. It pained Jennifer to see her daughter struggling, and yet she felt powerless to change it. But deep down, Jennifer knew she had to confront Sarah. The revelation hung in the air like an unspoken promise. Whatever was going on, it needed to be addressed. The fear of losing her daughter to this darkness was a weight she could no longer bear. The moment arrived. Jennifer stepped forward, heart pounding, determination coursing through her veins. "Sarah," she called, her voice steady, yet tinged with emotion. "Can we talk?" The laughter around them faded. All eyes turned to the two of them. Jennifer felt the weight of the moment, the tension wrapping around them like a thick fog. This was it. In that instant, everything hung in the balance. But what she didn't know was that this confrontation would open the floodgates to truths long buried, emotions that had festered beneath the surface. As Sarah turned to her, a flicker of fear crossed her face. "Now?" "Yes, now," Jennifer replied, her voice firm. "We need to talk about what you said. It's important." But what Jennifer didn't realize was that this conversation would unravel the very fabric of their relationship, revealing wounds that had been hidden for far too long. The truth was a double-edged sword, and as they stood on the brink of revelation, neither was prepared for the impact it would have on their lives. The air thickened with anticipation, and in that moment, a quiet storm began to brew. I remember those days as if they were yesterday. The house was always filled with laughter. Our family gathered around the dinner table, sharing stories and enjoying my famous shepherd's pie. The warmth of the kitchen wrapped around us like a comforting hug. My husband, Robert, would lean back, his eyes sparkling with joy, while our children, Sarah and James, fought over the last piece of pie. Those moments felt like eternity, a cocoon of happiness, but as I look back now, I realize I was blind to the cracks forming beneath our perfect facade. The laughter, once so genuine, began to fade. I didn't know then that the storm was brewing just beyond the horizon. Life has a way of sneaking in, doesn't it? One moment, everything is right in the world, and the next, you're left grappling with questions that cut deep. It was a chilly autumn evening when I first noticed a change in Sarah. She used to be my sunshine, always bursting with energy. But that night, she sat, quietly at the table, her eyes downcast. I brushed it off, thinking she was just tired from school. I remember asking, "Are you okay, love?" She shrugged, an answer that chilled me to the bone. I should have pressed, but I didn't want to intrude. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between us grew. The laughter faded, replaced by awkward silences. James became more withdrawn, too. My heart ached as I watched my children pull away, like leaves falling from a tree in winter. I felt helpless, like a ship lost at sea, searching for a lighthouse that wasn't there. I tried to hold our family together. Family game nights, movie marathons, even baked cookies like I used to. I wanted to mend the seams, to stitch together the fabric of our lives. But no matter how I tried, it was as if a wall had been erected between us. Each attempt met with a polite smile but no spark. One evening, I found myself sitting alone on the porch, the weight of worry pressing down on me. The stars twinkled above, but their beauty felt distant and cold. I whispered a prayer, asking for guidance, for clarity. I needed to understand what had changed. That's when I heard it, a quiet whisper in my heart urging me to dig deeper. I began to observe. Conversations shifted. The once lively discussions turned into hushed tones. I caught snippets of words: money, inheritance, trust. My heart raced. What were they hiding? The thought of betrayal twisted my stomach into knots. I was determined to uncover the truth. Days passed, and I continued to connect the dots. I noticed Sarah's friends were different. They didn't share the warmth I once felt in our home. Their laughter felt hollow. James seemed to retreat even further into himself. I felt like a detective in my own home, piecing together a puzzle that had no clear picture. Then came the day I found the letter. It was neatly tucked away in a drawer, the edges crisp and untouched. My heart pounded as I unfolded it. It was from Robert's lawyer, discussing an inheritance. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't just about the family anymore. This was about trust and loyalty. I felt the world shift beneath me. I had to confront Robert. The thought terrified me, but I knew I couldn't hide anymore. I needed answers. I needed him to tell me everything. That evening, I gathered my courage, my heart racing with each step toward our bedroom. I found him sitting on the edge of the bed, lost in thought. The air was thick with unspoken words. "Robert, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling. He looked up, surprise etched on his face. "What's wrong, Mary?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "I found a letter about the inheritance. What is going on?" His expression shifted. A flicker of something, fear, guilt, perhaps? It was all I needed to see. "It's complicated," he began, but I wouldn't let him off easy. "Complicated? Our family is falling apart and you call it complicated?" I felt the anger rise within me, a fire igniting. "You need to tell me the truth. What are you hiding?" He hesitated, and I could see him wrestling with his thoughts. I could almost hear the gears turning in his mind. "It's not just about the money, Mary. It's about what it represents." But what he didn't know was that I was ready to fight for my family. I would dig until I reached the core of this mystery. I had to know what he meant. "Then tell me," I said, my voice steady, "because whatever it is, we can work through it. We always have." But the look in his eyes told me this was different. My heart raced with fear and determination. "Let's sit down," he finally said, his voice low and serious. "But what you don't know might change everything." I felt a shiver run down my spine. What could it be? I braced myself for the truth, knowing it would either break us or, somehow, bring us back together. But what he didn't realize was that I had found my strength. I was ready to face whatever storm lay ahead, and I was determined to protect my family, no matter the cost. Little did I know, the revelations to come would shake the very foundation of our lives. I was prepared to fight, but what if the battle was against my own flesh and blood? "I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that." I still remember that evening, the air thick with tension, like an impending storm. We gathered for dinner, the table adorned with my mother's best china. The scent of roast chicken mingled with the unmistakable undercurrent of unease. My heart raced as I watched Jennifer, my eldest daughter, her eyes cold, lips pressed tight. It felt like a prelude to something catastrophic. "Why are you even here?" she shot at me, her voice sharp as glass. "You've done nothing but drag us down." The words hit me like a punch to the gut, my own flesh and blood turning against me. The room fell silent, my heart sank, and I could feel the sting of tears welling up. I had always sacrificed for them, always put their needs before mine. Yet, here she was, wielding her words like swords. "Jennifer," I started, my voice trembling. "I'm trying." "Trying what? To ruin our lives?" she interrupted, her disdain palpable. "You think you're still in control? You're not. We're tired of your drama." Each accusation landed heavy, leaving no room for rebuttal, no space for understanding. I could see the disappointment in the eyes of my other children, the silent nods of agreement. They were aligned against me, and I felt like a stranger in my own home. My husband, John, sat quietly, his gaze downcast, as if he could vanish into the tablecloth. I searched his face for support, but it only mirrored the heaviness in the room. The realization washed over me like a cold wave. This was a fracture, a deep rift that I couldn't mend with words. I felt the walls closing in, the air thickening with unspoken resentments. "Maybe we should just stop pretending," Jennifer continued, her voice rising. "You've made life unbearable with your constant neediness. It's suffocating." I wanted to scream, to defend myself, but the words caught in my throat, tangled with hurt and disbelief. It was a betrayal I hadn't seen coming. "Enough," I finally managed, my voice steadier than I felt. "I've always done my best for you all. I love you." The love in my heart felt like a fragile thing, teetering on the edge of despair. But the room echoed with silence. The love I thought would bind us had become a weapon against me. "Love? Is that what you call this?" Jennifer's voice dripped with sarcasm. "You don't know what love is. You've only ever thought of yourself." With those words, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her with a finality that echoed through the house. The sound reverberated in my chest, a painful reminder of the distance that had grown between us. I looked around the table, my other children avoiding my gaze. They were caught in a web of lies and manipulation, spun by Jennifer's venomous words. I felt like a ghost, hovering in the shadows of my own life. I had given everything, and yet it wasn't enough. The ache in my heart grew heavier, a weight that threatened to crush me. "Don't take it to heart, Mum," Michael said, his voice soft but distant. "She's just angry. Angry. This goes beyond anger." My voice trembled, filled with a mix of hurt and frustration. "This is betrayal. I don't know how we got here." "Maybe it's time to let go," he suggested gently, but it felt like a betrayal in itself. How could I let go when I fought so hard to keep my family together? That night, I sat in the dark, the silence deafening. I clutched a small photo of our family, taken years ago during happier times. The smiles, the laughter, all felt like a distant memory. I longed for those moments, but I could feel the shadows creeping in, threatening to consume what was left of our bond. As I sat there, a flicker of determination ignited within me. I wouldn't let this be the end. I would fight for my family, for the love that still lingered beneath the surface. I thought of my faith, a guiding light through the darkness, but I also knew that healing wouldn't be easy. I resolved to confront this head-on, to understand the root of their pain, to bridge the chasm that had opened between us. I had to believe that redemption was possible, but how? The next morning, I gathered my strength, ready to reach out, to reconnect. I wanted to open a dialogue, to share my side, my vulnerabilities. I needed them to see that I was still their mother, still capable of love and strength. But what I didn't know was how deep the betrayal ran. But what they didn't know was that this was just the beginning of a much larger battle, one that would force us all to confront our truths and the very fabric of our family. Yet, as I prepared to face them, I felt a nagging doubt. What if they were right? What if I had become the burden? I had to find my strength, to fight for my place in this family. But the question lingered, could I truly overcome this? And there, in that moment of uncertainty, I realized I had one chance to turn this around. But would they be willing to listen? Would they allow me the opportunity to heal what was so broken? I sat at the kitchen table, the sunlight streaming through the window, illuminating the dust motes swirling in the air. It was a new day, but the heaviness in my heart clung like a dark shroud. I could still hear the echoes of last night's argument, the words exchanged like daggers. My children, my own flesh and blood, had turned against me. The betrayal felt like a wound that would never heal. I picked up my phone, hesitating for just a moment. What if they didn't want to talk? What if they slammed the Frencheries door in my face again? But I had to try. I had to believe that redemption was possible. Stay strong, I whispered to myself, the familiar phrase, a balm for my soul. I texted them, each message a prayer wrapped in hope. Can we talk? I miss you. Simple, yet profound. I waited, my heart pounding in my chest. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, a reply came from Sarah, my youngest. I don't know, Mom. Things are complicated. Complicated. That was one way to put it. I could feel the weight of their hurt, their anger. But I also felt something else, an ember of determination. I wouldn't let this darkness extinguish my spirit. I had to confront the lies, the manipulations that had seeped into our family like poison. An hour later, they arrived, the air thick with tension. Sarah walked in first, her eyes downcast. Elizabeth followed, arms crossed defensively. I took a deep breath, the smell of fresh coffee grounding me. I'm glad you're here, I said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside. What do you want, Mum? Elizabeth's tone was sharp, cutting through my resolve. I looked at them, my daughters, the girls I had raised with love and care. I want to understand. I want to talk about what's been happening. I could feel the walls they built around their hearts, tall and unyielding. Talk? You mean lecture us? Talk, Sarah shot back, her frustration bubbling to the surface. No, I mean listen. I want to hear your pain. I want to know why you feel this way. The words came out, heartfelt and raw. Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. I could see their expressions shifting, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Finally, Elizabeth spoke, her voice trembling. You don't understand. You never did. It's like you were always more concerned with your image than with us. Her words were a blow, but I held my ground. I was trying to protect you, but maybe I was too focused on keeping up. Appearances. Too focused on everything but us, Sarah added, her tone softening just a fraction. We felt abandoned. I closed my eyes, the weight of their words crashing over me like a wave. I never wanted that. I thought I was doing what was best. Best for who? Elizabeth countered, her brow furrowing. You were never there when we needed you. It hit me hard, the realization that my intentions had fallen so short. I see that now. I'm sorry. I thought I was being strong for all of us. Strong? Or just stubborn? Sarah's voice held a mix of challenge and vulnerability. Stubborn. I could accept that. I had clung to my ideals, my beliefs, without seeing the cracks forming beneath the surface. You're right. I've been stubborn, but I want to change. I want to heal this. There was a moment of stillness, the tension hanging like a fragile thread. Do you even know how? Elizabeth asked, skepticism lacing her words. I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to do the work, to fight for our family. I want to understand your pain and to show you that I love you. Their eyes softened just a bit, and I could see the flicker of hope forming among the ashes of our discord. But I knew this was just the beginning of a long road ahead. I had to prove that I could be the mother they needed, the one who would fight for us. Maybe we can try, Sarah said slowly, the words tentative but full of promise. Try, I echoed, the word heavy with potential. But what they didn't know was that the real battle was yet to come. As I looked into their eyes, I felt the weight of the challenges ahead. Could I truly overcome the fractures that had formed? Would they allow me the chance to prove myself? But as I sat there, hope blossoming amidst the uncertainty, I realized that we were standing on the brink of something transformative. It was time for healing, for forgiveness, for a new beginning, and I was ready to do whatever it took to pull through this storm. Yet, beneath the surface, I sensed a deeper betrayal waiting to be uncovered, a secret that could shatter everything we were trying to rebuild. Little did I know, this confrontation was merely the tip of the iceberg. Would we emerge stronger, or would the truth tear us apart once and for all? The next morning, hope flickered like a candle in my heart. I woke with a sense of purpose, ready to confront the shadows that loomed over my family. As I prepared breakfast, the familiar sounds of the kitchen filled the air. The kettle whistled, steam rising like my rising determination. I imagined my children, their laughter echoing through the halls, filling the void that had grown between us. But doubt clawed at me. Would they even listen? I thought about the last few months, how our conversations had turned into battles, harsh words exchanged like daggers. My heart ached at the thought of their disappointment, their anger. Yet, I had to try. I had to remind them of the love that still lingered beneath the surface. "Mom, do we have to talk about this?" Sarah's voice cut through my thoughts. She stood at the doorway, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. "We do. I need you to hear me," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. She rolled her eyes, but I pressed on. "I know things haven't been easy. I've felt the distance too, but we can't just pretend everything is fine." "Fine? You think this is fine?" she snapped, her frustration bubbling over. "You've changed, Mom. We don't even recognize you anymore." A weight settled on my chest. I had to own my part in this. "I know I've made mistakes. I've been lost. But I want to find my way back to you. To us." Michael entered, the tension crackling in the air. "What's going on?" His brows furrowed, concern mingled with skepticism. "I'm trying to talk to Sarah about how we can fix what's broken," I said. "My part racing." "Fix what? You mean you want us to just forget?" He shot back, his voice sharp like glass. "You don't get it. You hurt us, Mom." "I know," I admitted, tears pricking at my eyes. "But I'm here now. I want to heal. I need you both to help me understand what went wrong." Silence enveloped us, thick and heavy. I could see their walls rising, built from hurt and betrayal. But I refused to back down. I thought of the faith that had carried me through darker days. "I believe in redemption," I said softly. "I believe we can heal together." "Faith doesn't fix everything," Sarah said, her voice softer now but still guarded. "You can't just wave a magic wand and make it all better." "No, I can't," I replied, taking a deep breath. "But I can take steps. I can show you I'm committed to changing, to being the mother you deserve." Michael leaned back, arms crossed, his expression torn between anger and something softer. "It's going to take a lot more than words, Mom." "I know," I said, looking into his eyes. "I'm ready to put in the work. I want to prove it to you. I will not give up on us." The tension in the room began to shift. I could see the cracks in their defenses, the flicker of hope mingling with skepticism. "What do you want us to do?" Sarah asked, her voice almost a whisper. "Let's start small," I suggested. "Let's share our feelings. No judgment, just honesty." "Honesty?" Michael echoed, skepticism lacing his tone. "Yes. I want to know how you both feel. What hurt you the most? I need to understand how to make things right." They exchanged glances, uncertainty hanging in the air. But I could feel a shift. "Okay," Sarah said, her voice tremulous yet resolute. "But you have to promise to listen." "I promise," I said, my heart swelling with gratitude. As we sat down together, the conversation unfolded like a fragile flower, petals slowly, revealing their colors. Each shared feeling was a step towards healing, a crack in the walls we had built. I listened as they spoke of their pain, their anger, and I felt the weight of their words. I had to stay strong, to absorb the hurt without becoming defensive. This was not about me, it was about us. But as the discussion deepened, I sensed an undercurrent of something deeper, a betrayal that ran deeper than I had anticipated. As they recounted moments of disappointment, I realized I was not just confronting their anger. I was peeling back layers of hurt that had been buried for far too long. "Mom, You have to understand how it felt when you chose your projects over us, Sarah said, her voice breaking. We felt invisible. I didn't realize, I whispered, the truth crashing over me like a wave. I thought I was doing what was best for us. Best for us? Michael's voice rose. It didn't feel that way. You were always busy, always distracted. We needed you, and you weren't there. Their words stung, cutting through the layers of my defenses. I had been so wrapped up in my own struggles, I had failed to see their pain. I'm so sorry, I said, tears streaming down my cheeks. I never wanted you to feel that way. I want to do better. I need to do better. But just as I felt a glimmer of hope, a question loomed over us. But what if it's too late? Michael asked, his voice barely above a whisper. What if we can't go back? I froze, the weight of his words settling heavily in the room. Could I really heal what was so broken? Could we find our way back to each other? I had to believe that our love could overcome the chasms that had formed between us, but as I looked into their eyes, uncertainty lingered in the air like a thick fog. In that moment, I realized that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges. The road to redemption was long, and the scars of betrayal would not vanish overnight. But I refused to give in to despair. I wouldn't let go. I had to find my strength to pull through this battle for my family. And just as I began to gather my resolve, an unexpected thought struck me. What if the real battle was yet to come? What if the pain we had yet to face would shake the very foundations of our family? As I sat there, surrounded by my children, the question echoed in my mind. Could we truly overcome this, or were we standing at the edge of an irrevocable divide? The sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow on the worn table where we once shared countless meals. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of anticipation. Today was the day. I had to bridge the gap, to reach out to my children, to remind them of the love we once had. As I prepared myself, a flicker of doubt crept in. What if they didn't want to listen? What if my attempts at healing were met with anger or, worse, indifference? I shook my head, willing those thoughts away. This was my family. This was worth fighting for. I picked up my phone and hesitated. The number felt foreign now. My fingers hovered over the screen before I finally pressed call. It rang, each beep echoing my anxiety. And then, her voice a mixture of confusion and caution. Mom? Sarah, it's me. Can we talk? Silence stretched between us, heavy and tense. About what? About us, I said softly, the words spilling out like a prayer. I miss you. I miss our family. I don't think that's possible, she replied, her voice tight. You don't know what you've done. I know I've made mistakes, but I want to understand. I want to fix this. Another pause, and I could hear her breathing, like she was weighing my sincerity. Fine. Meet me at the cafe, but don't expect anything. I hung up, my heart pounding. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. I had opened a door. Now I just needed to walk through it. As I drove to the cafe, memories washed over me, the laughter we shared, the family game nights, the holidays filled with joy. But then the shadows crept in again, reminding me of the fractures that had formed. I clutched the steering wheel tighter, reminding myself that healing takes courage. When I arrived, Sarah was already there, arms crossed, a wall of defiance. I swallowed hard, steeling myself. She looked so much like me, yet so different. I took a seat across from her, the distance between us palpable. Thanks for coming, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Let's just get this over with, she snapped, her eyes narrowing. I felt a pang of hurt but refused to back down. Okay, I'm here. I want to hear how you feel. Her voice rose, sharp and bitter. You think it's that simple? You think I can just forget how you betrayed us? Betrayed? I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was protecting you. Protecting us? By lying? By hiding things? The fire in her tone was relentless. You kept secrets, Mum. We trusted you. I know, and I'm sorry, but I thought I was doing what was best for our family. Best for whom? You or us? Her words struck me like a blow. I could see the pain etched on her face, the betrayal that had festered. I felt the tears prick at my eyes, but I held them back. You're right. I was selfish. I thought I could shield you. But I see now that I only pushed you away, she huffed, frustration boiling over. You always thought you knew what was best, But you didn't ask us. You just decided. I took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. I want to change that. I want to listen. I want to understand your pain. Can we start over? Can we rebuild what we lost? Her expression softened, just a fraction. It's not that easy, Mum. You can't just expect everything to go back to normal. I don't want normal. I want real. I reached across the table, my hand open, an offering. Please. For a moment, she hesitated. Then, she pulled back, arms crossing defensively again. I don't know if I can forgive you. Not yet. I nodded, accepting the weight of her words. Then let's take it one step at a time. As we talked, I could see the walls around her heart slowly start to crack. We spoke of memories, of love and loss, of the pain that had come between us. It wasn't easy. Each word felt like a delicate thread, weaving us closer, yet also exposing wounds that ran deep. But as the conversation unfolded, I began to feel a flicker of hope. Maybe we could find a way back to each other. Perhaps this was the beginning of healing, a chance for redemption. Yet, as I looked into her eyes, I knew we were still standing on shaky ground. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges. The truth still loomed over us, a specter that demanded to be faced. And then, just as I thought we were making progress, Sarah leaned back, her expression shifting. But there's something you don't know, something that changes everything. My heart raced. What could she mean? I realized in that moment that this was just the beginning. The secrets were still there, waiting to be unearthed. What if the truth was more painful than I could imagine? Would our bond survive the revelation? The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears. I had to brace myself. We were about to delve deeper than I ever anticipated. And I could only hope that we would emerge stronger on the other side. I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders as I stood before the mirror, staring at my reflection. The woman looking back seemed like a stranger. My hair was disheveled, eyes red from sleepless nights. It wasn't just my appearance that had changed. It was my spirit. Had I really let things spiral so far out of control? I took a deep breath, remembering the warmth of laughter that used to fill our home. I could almost hear the echoes of our family dinners, the joy that danced in the air. But those memories felt like phantoms now, haunting reminders of what once was. I had to pull myself together. Today, I'll talk to them, I whispered to myself, my voice wavering. I have to. As the sun rose, casting a golden glow through the kitchen window, I made my way to the table where my family would gather. My heart raced. Would they listen? Would they even care? I poured a cup of coffee, letting the rich aroma fill the room, a temporary comfort against the storm brewing inside me. I found them in the living room, sprawled on the sofa, eyes glued to their devices. Sarah, my youngest, barely looked up. "Hey, Mum," she mumbled, distracted. Michael and Elizabeth exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. "Can we talk?" I started, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "I need to share some things." Michael sighed, rolling his eyes. "Do we have to? We all know this is just going to be another lecture." "No, it's not a lecture," I replied, my voice firm but shaky. "It's about us, about what's been happening. I know things have been hard, but I want us to heal." Elizabeth crossed her arms, skepticism etching her face. "Heal? How can we heal when you keep ignoring what we need?" Every word felt like a jab. "I'm not ignoring anything. I'm trying to understand." "Understand?" Sarah's voice was sharp. "You don't even see how your actions hurt us. You think you're the victim here." Their accusations felt like arrows piercing my heart. "I know I've made mistakes, but I didn't intend to hurt you. I thought I was protecting us." "Protecting us?" Michael scoffed. "You've been pushing us away. You've made it impossible for us to talk to you." "Then let's talk now," I pleaded, voice rising with desperation. "What do you want from me?" Silence fell like a heavy curtain, each of us caught in our own web of pain. I could see the hurt in their eyes, but it was intertwined with anger, resentment. I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe if I could just reach them, show them my heart, we could begin to mend the rift. But deep down, a nagging fear whispered, what if I was too late? "Please, just give me a chance to explain," I continued, my voice softer now. "I want to be a better mother. I want to be there for you." After what felt like an eternity, Elizabeth finally spoke. You don't get to decide that. We're not the ones who need to change. My heart sank. How could they not see my struggle? I'm willing to work on this, but I need your help. I need you to meet me halfway. Halfway? Sarah echoed, disbelief heavy in her tone. You've been living in your own world, Mum. We've been drowning here. Their words stung, but I couldn't let despair take hold. I know I've been distant. I've been trying to cope with my own fears, but I realize now that I can't do it alone. A flicker of vulnerability crossed Michael's face. And what if we don't want to cope with you? What if we want to heal without you? Then I'll respect that, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But I'll never stop fighting for us. I'll never give up. In that moment, I saw a hint of hesitation in their eyes. Perhaps they were starting to see my sincerity. Perhaps I could guide them back to the light, back to each other. But just as hope began to bloom, a shadow loomed over me. What if they were right? What if I truly had become a burden? Can we at least try? I implored, feeling the weight of my own uncertainty. They exchanged glances again, and I could sense the tension, the unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. Would they be willing to listen? Would they allow me the opportunity to heal what was so broken? The silence stretched, and I held my breath, waiting for the rumored answer that could change everything. But just then the doorbell rang, shattering the moment. The sound echoed through the house, a sudden interruption that felt ominous. "What now?" Michael muttered, irritation creeping into his voice. I glanced at the door, anxiety pooling in my stomach. "I'll get it," I said, wanting to escape the weight of the conversation. As I opened the door, the sight before me caught my breath. It was David, my estranged brother, standing there with a look of determination. "Mary, we need to talk," he said, his voice steady. At that moment, I knew the storm was far from over. The truth was about to surface in ways I never anticipated. Would this be the reckoning we needed, or would it tear us apart even further? David's presence felt like a bolt of lightning, electrifying the air. I stared at him, caught in the whirlwind of emotions. "What do you mean we need to talk?" I asked, my heart racing. He stepped inside, shutting the door behind him. "It's about Mum," he said, his voice low but firm. "She's hurting us all, and I think it's time we confront her." "Confront her?" Michael repeated, a mix of anger and disbelief flashing across his face. "You think that's going to help?" "Maybe it's the only way," David replied, his eyes steady. "We've been walking on eggshells for too long. It's time to face the truth." I felt the weight of those words settling heavily in the room. It was a truth I had been avoiding. "David, I've just started to reach out to her. Can't we try to work through this together?" "Work through what?" David snapped, his frustration bubbling over. "Her lies? Her distance?" "David," I pleaded, "she's our mother. We owe her that much." He shook his head, a bitter smile tugging at his lips. "You think that's love? Letting her walk all over us? She needs to know the damage she's done." A silence fell, thick and suffocating. I could see the tension coiling in Michael's shoulders. "What if she doesn't want to talk?" he asked quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then we make her listen," David insisted. "We can't keep pretending everything is fine. It's killing us." I felt my heart drop. The thought of digging up old wounds terrified me. But what if it tears us apart even more? Or what if it brings us back together? David countered, his tone softening slightly. "We can't heal unless we're willing to face the pain." I took a deep breath, weighing his words. There was truth in them, even if they felt like knives to my heart. "So, what's the plan?" I asked, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. David stepped closer, his expression earnest. "We sit her down. No distractions, just the three of us. We tell her how we feel, no more hiding." Michael glanced at me, his expression uncertain. "Is that really what you want, Mum?" I hesitated. "I want to heal, but I don't know if I can face her truths." "Then it's time to find your strength," David said, giving me a small nod of encouragement. "Let's do this for us, for her." Trepidation washed over me, but beneath it lay a flicker of hope. "Okay," I said slowly, letting the words settle. "Let's do it." As we prepared for the confrontation, I felt a mix of dread and determination. The weight of our family's unspoken truths loomed over us, but perhaps this was the moment we could finally break free from the chains of silence. We gathered in the living room, the air thick with anticipation. The world outside seemed to fade away as we waited for my mother to arrive. Each minute stretched painfully long. When she walked in, her presence filled the room with a familiar warmth. But today, it felt different. Today, we weren't going to let her shield us from the truth. Today, we would face it head on. "Mary, what's wrong?" she asked, her brow furrowing with concern as she noticed our somber expressions. "Sit down, Mum," I said, my voice steady despite the storm swirling inside me. "We need to talk." Her eyes widened, a flicker of apprehension crossing her face. "About what?" "About everything," I replied, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on us. "About how we've been feeling, about the distance between us." David chimed in, his voice firm. "You've isolated us, Mum. It's tearing us apart." A flicker of surprise crossed her face, quickly replaced by defensiveness. "I didn't mean to, but you did," Michael interrupted, frustration spilling over. "You've been lost in your own world while we've been drowning." The room fell silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. My heart raced, the moment of truth hanging in the air like a fragile glass about to shatter. "Please, just listen," I said, desperation creeping into my voice. "We need to talk about how your actions have affected us." For a moment, I thought I saw the faintest glimmer of understanding in her eyes, but then it vanished, replaced by the familiar armor she wore to shield herself from pain. "I've done my best," she said defensively, crossing her arms. "But your best isn't enough anymore," David shot back, his tone unyielding. "We need you to be real with us, to admit what's been happening." "I don't know what you want me to say," she replied, her voice wavering. "Start with the truth," I urged, my heart pounding. "We can't begin to heal until we face it." Her gaze dropped to the floor, and I could see the turmoil swirling behind her eyes. Would she finally break down the walls she had built? Would she let us in, or would she double down, pushing us further away? I held my breath, praying for the strength to pull us through. This was our moment, our chance to mend what had been broken. But would she meet us halfway? As the silence stretched, I felt the weight of our family's history pressing down on us, but I refused to give in to despair. "Stay strong, Mary," I whispered to myself. "Never give up." And then, just as the tension reached its peak, a realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. "Mum, we're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for you, too." The words hung in the air, and I could see the flicker of hope in David's eyes. Would this be enough to reach her? Would she realize that love, in all its messy, complicated glory, was waiting just beyond the walls she had built? But as I looked at her, I couldn't shake the feeling that the journey ahead would be fraught with challenges. Would we all pull through together, or would this confrontation unravel us further? The moment David stepped into the room, the air thickened. His presence was like a storm brewing. I could see the tension in Michael's stance, the way he clenched his fists. Sarah shifted uneasily, her eyes darting back and forth between us. "Mary, we need to talk," David repeated, his voice firm yet tinged with an urgency that cut through the chaos. "About what? The world you've built around yourself?" Michael shot back, his voice dripping with disdain. "No, about our family," David said, a subtle crack in his armor revealing the vulnerability beneath. "I've heard things that can change everything." "What are you talking about?" I asked, my heart racing. My mind raced with possibilities. David took a step closer, his eyes locking onto mine. "It's about Mum and what's been happening since the fallout." The mention of our mother felt like a knife twisting. "What do you mean? You think I don't want to fix this?" "I'm not saying that, but we can't keep ignoring the truth." He glanced at Michael and Sarah, who stood like statues, caught between anger and curiosity. I got to confront the past. It's haunting us." "Haunting us," Sarah echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do you know?" David took a deep breath. "I found something. A letter that changes everything." "Letter? What are you on about?" Michael scoffed, crossing his arms defensively. "It's not just any letter," David pressed on, his voice rising slightly. "It's from Mum's old friend, a lawyer. It talks about a trust, a family trust that was set up years ago, long before all this chaos." "What kind of trust?" I felt my stomach drop. My mind raced, the shadows of the past creeping in. A trust that could give us a chance to heal, to rebuild what's been broken, but it requires us to come together, to be willing to face the truth. Michael shook his head, disbelief etched across his face. And you think we can just do that? You think a piece of paper can fix this? Not just a piece of paper, David replied, his voice steadier now. It's a guide, a roadmap back to each other. But we must be willing to take the first step. Who says we want to take any steps with you? Michael snapped, his frustration bubbling over. Michael, stop! I felt a surge of protectiveness for David. He's right. We can't keep running from this. We owe it to ourselves to Mum, to find out what's really going on. David's eyes brightened, hope flickering to life. Exactly. I know it's hard, but this could be a chance to break the cycle, to find our strength and face our fears together. Sarah's expression softened, the walls she'd built starting to crack. What do we have to lose? She asked quietly. Everything, Michael shot back, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. No, we have everything to gain, I said, my voice rising with conviction. If we stay divided, we'll only lose more. We need to pull through this together. David nodded, the tension easing just a fraction. I believe we can heal, but it starts now. We can't let fear dictate our choices anymore. As I looked at my children, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could navigate this storm together. Perhaps this letter was the key to unlocking the door we thought was forever closed. But before I could voice my thoughts, David continued, I brought the letter with me, but there's more to discuss. It's not just about the trust. What else is there? I asked, my heart racing again. David hesitated. There are secrets, things about our family that could change everything you think you know. The words hung in the air, heavy with implications. I felt my breath catch. What could possibly be worse than what we had already endured? Secrets? Michael asked, his voice low. What kind of secrets? David shifted uncomfortably. Ones that could explain why our family fell apart, why Mum became distant, why we've all drifted so far. Why didn't you tell us sooner? I pressed, my frustration bubbling over. I didn't know how. It took me time to piece it all together, but I can't keep it to myself anymore. Just then, the doorbell rang again, its echo cutting through the tension like a knife. We all exchanged glances, a moment of shared uncertainty hanging between us. I'll get it, I said, my heart pounding in my chest. Another interruption, another chance for clarity or confusion. As I opened the door, another surprise awaited me. It was Elizabeth, my sister, her face pale but determined. Mary, we need to talk. It's about Mum, she said breathlessly, as if she had raced over. At that moment, I realized the storm was only just beginning. The truth was about to unravel in ways we never expected, and we'd have to confront not just our family's secrets, but the very fabric of our relationships. Would we find redemption, or would this revelation tear us apart even further? David stepped into the house, his presence a sudden storm against the backdrop of our fragile reunion. My heart raced. What is it, David? I asked, my voice a mix of dread and hope. We need to talk about Mum, he stated, his eyes piercing through the tension that hung in the air. Talk about her? Or talk about how you've walked away from all of this? Michael shot back, anger bubbling to the surface again. David's jaw tightened. I didn't walk away. I had to protect myself. You need to understand that. Protect yourself? Sarah echoed, disbelief lighting her features. What about Mum? What about us? Sometimes you have to do what's best for you. David's voice softened, but the weight of his words was heavy. I felt the walls closing in. What's best for us is to come together, I insisted. We can't let this divide us any further. David shifted uncomfortably. You don't understand what she's done. It's not just about you, Mary. It's about everything. The lies, the hurt. It's deeper than you think. The room fell silent. A wave of confusion washed over me. What lies? What hurt? Tell me, I urged, stepping closer to him. What do you mean? He hesitated, glancing at Michael and Sarah, weighing his words as if they were stones on a scale. I found something about the family finances, things Mum never told you. Panic surged through me. What do you mean? What did you find? David took a breath, his eyes dark with resolve. She's been hiding money, a lot of it. And she's been making decisions that affect all of us without telling anyone. Why would she do that? Michael demanded, frustration spilling over. Maybe she thought she was protecting you, David replied, his tone almost defensive. Or maybe she was just scared. Or maybe... He paused, glancing at me. Maybe she was just trying to control everything. The room buzzed with the weight of his revelation. I felt as if the ground beneath me had shifted, the very foundation of our family teetering on the brink of collapse. Control? I whispered, my heart racing. What do you mean? He stepped closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper. I think she's afraid of losing everything, of losing you, of losing us. But in trying to hold on too tight, she's pushing us away. I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I didn't know. I thought she was just lost in her own world. Maybe she is, David replied softly. But we need to confront her. We need to find out the truth. I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of his words settle in my chest. All right, let's do it. Let's bring it all into the light. Just then, the door creaked open behind us. What's going on? Mum's voice sliced through the air. Mary, we were just... Michael began, but I cut him off. No, we need to talk, I said, my voice steady. All of us, right now. The tension was palpable as she stepped further into the room, an air of apprehension surrounding her. What about? About everything, I replied, my heart pounding. About the money, about the choices you've made without us. We deserve to know. Her eyes widened, surprise washing over her features. What do you mean? David found out. We need to understand why you've kept things from us, I said, trying to keep my voice calm, even as emotions swirled inside me. Why would you believe him? She shot back, the defensiveness creeping into her voice. Because we're family, and families deserve honesty, I replied, my voice growing firmer. We need to face this together, or we won't survive this. Mum's eyes softened, and for a moment I saw the fear behind her anger. I didn't want to burden you, she whispered. Burden us? Michael interjected, frustration seeping through. You've already burdened us by keeping this a secret. I thought I was protecting you, she said, her voice trembling. And look where that's got us, David countered, his tone sharp. We're all standing on the edge of a cliff, and you're the one who pushed us here. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of this moment. Mom, we're here for you, but you have to meet us halfway. We can't heal if you continue to hide. As I spoke, I could see the flicker of realization in her eyes. Perhaps she was beginning to understand. Perhaps there was still hope for us. But then, the shadows of doubt returned. What if this was just another cycle of hurt? What if she couldn't let go of the past? Can we at least try? I asked, my voice breaking. For us, for the family we used to have. The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Just then, the phone rang, shattering the moment once more. I glanced at the screen. Unknown caller. Should I answer? I asked, my heart racing again. Mum nodded cautiously. Maybe it's important. As I picked up the phone, I felt the weight of the conversation hanging over us. Hello? A pause. Then a voice I hadn't expected. Mary, it's James. We need to talk. Now. My breath caught in my throat. What could he possibly want? And why did I have the feeling this was just the beginning of a much bigger storm? The tension hung thick in the air as David stepped over the threshold, his presence instantly commanding attention. My heart raced, caught between hope and fear. It had been years since we spoke, years filled with silence that felt like a chasm. What do you mean, David? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He glanced back towards Michael and Sarah, their expressions a mix of surprise and apprehension. I heard what's been happening. I know it's bad, but we need to face it together. Together? Michael scoffed. You've been absent too. You think you can just waltz back in and fix this? David held his ground, his eyes unwavering. No, I don't. But I want to help. We're family, aren't we? We can't let this divide us. Sarah crossed her arms, skepticism written all over her face. Family? That's rich coming from you. Where were you when we needed you? I made mistakes, I know that, David admitted, his voice filled with a sincerity that cut through the anger. But now is the time to put those aside. We need to confront the demons haunting us, not just sweep them under the rug. My heart swelled with a mix of hope and dread. Could this really be the turning point? I looked at my children, their faces softened by the raw honesty of their uncle. You're right, David, we can't face this alone. We must find a way to heal, but it has to be together. Michael's defenses seemed to crack, just a little. And what if it's too late? What if we're too broken? I took a step closer, my voice steady. It's never too late to find redemption, to seek forgiveness. We're all hurting, yes, but we can still pull through. We can find our strength. I recalled the countless times I had leaned on my faith, the quiet whispers of hope that had nudged me forward. David nodded, his expression softening. We can start small. Let's share what we're feeling. All of us. No judgments, just honesty. Sarah hesitated, but I could see the flicker of curiosity in her eyes. What if it just opens old wounds? Then we bandage them together, David replied, his voice firm but gentle. We can't heal what we don't acknowledge. Fine. Michael relented, though his body language was still tense. I'll try. Me too, Sarah added, her voice barely a whisper. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Maybe this was the moment we all needed. I'll start, I said, my voice trembling slightly. I've been so afraid of losing you both, of not being enough. I thought distancing myself was the answer, but I see now it only drove us further apart. As I spoke, the weight of my fears began to lift. I could feel David's eyes on me, steady and encouraging. It's hard, I confessed, to face the reality of what's happened, but I believe we can find our way back, with faith and determination. The room fell silent, the air thick with unspoken thoughts. I could see the wheels turning in their minds, the struggle of wanting to forgive but feeling the weight of past hurts. Just then, my phone buzzed, breaking the moment. I glanced down, my heart skipping a beat as I read the message. It was from a friend, a reminder of a community meeting I had almost forgotten. We're having a prayer circle this evening, I said, looking up. It could be a chance to seek guidance, to find support together. Do you think it would help? Michael asked, uncertainty lacing his voice. Absolutely, I replied firmly. Sometimes we need a little help from others to find our strength. Community can be a powerful source of healing. David nodded in agreement. I'll go with you. We can lean on each other and who knows, maybe it will open doors we didn't even know were there. I saw a flicker of hope in Sarah's eyes as she considered it. All right, I'll come too, she finally said, but only if you promise to be honest. Honest about everything, I vowed. This is our chance to rebuild. We need to stay strong for each other. As we began to share our fears and hopes, the weight of our past slowly started to lift. It was still a long road ahead, but for the first time, I could see a glimmer of light. But just as the conversation started to flow, another message buzzed through. I glanced at my phone again, and my heart sank. It was from a lawyer I hadn't spoken to in years, one who had been involved in the family issues I had tried so hard to forget. We need to discuss your father's estate, it read. My stomach twisted. The past wasn't done with us yet. I think there's something else we need to confront, I said slowly, my voice trembling. Something that could change everything. David's expression shifted, concern filling his eyes. What do you mean? I took a deep breath, bracing myself for what was to come. I think we need to talk about our father, his estate, and the secrets that might still linger. Their faces turned pale, and I knew the storm was far from over. The truth was about to surface, and I had no idea how it would change everything we had just begun to rebuild. The air in the room felt heavy, the kind of weight that bears down on your chest, making it hard to breathe. I looked at my siblings, their faces pale and drawn, as if they were bracing themselves for a storm. We need to confront the truth about Dad, I said, my voice trembling slightly. There are things we can't ignore any longer. Sarah's eyes widened, fear flickering across her face. I don't want to talk about him. Not now. Not now? When then? I shot back, frustration bubbling up. We've been avoiding this for too long. It's time we faced it together. Michael leaned forward, his brows furrowing. What do you expect us to find? More pain? More anger? Maybe, I admitted, my heart racing. But we can't heal without understanding what happened. We owe it to ourselves, and to him, to find the truth. David looked between us, his expression softening. I think she's right. There's strength in facing our demons. Maybe it's the only way to move forward. I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. Exactly. If we can bear this together, we'll find our way out. As the weight of those words settled, I pulled out my phone again, the lawyer's message still lingering in my mind. I received a message about Dad's estate. There might be things there, things we need to know. Estate? Sarah echoed, bewilderment in her voice. What does that even mean for us? It means we have a chance to uncover what he left behind. The good, the bad, everything. I paused, letting the silence absorb my words. It won't be easy, but it could offer us some closure. David's hand rested against mine. If we're doing this, we do it together. No secrets, no lies, just the truth. I nodded, grateful for his support. All right then, let's commit to this. Whatever we find, we face it as a family. As we prepared ourselves for the evening meeting, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was a turning point. The prayer circle awaited us, but this time we weren't just seeking guidance, we were seeking strength to confront our past. The church was filled with soft candlelight, casting flickering shadows against the walls. I could feel the warmth of community enveloping us as we entered. Familiar faces greeted us, smiles of understanding and compassion. This was where healing began. Let's pray together, the leader said, her voice soothing as she invited us to gather in a circle. I held David's hand tightly, Sarah beside us, feeling the unity swell within our small group. Dear Lord, the leader began, guide us through the darkness, help us find the light within ourselves. As she spoke, I closed my eyes, envisioning all the burdens I carried, the anger, the hurt, the confusion. I prayed for clarity, for strength to confront the truth about our Father. The air shifted. I could almost feel the presence of those who had come before us, urging us on. We can do this, I whispered to myself, my heart steadying. When the prayer ended, a sense of calm washed over me. I opened my eyes and met Sarah's gaze. Are you ready? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, determination shining in her eyes. Let's do this. We left the church, the night air cool against our skin. I could feel the weight of the world on my shoulders, yet a sense of hope flickered within me. Together, we would face whatever lay ahead. Later that evening, we gathered at my house, the tension palpable as we sat around the dining table. I spread out the documents I had received from the lawyer, each one representing a part of our father's legacy. Here it is, I said, my voice steady. This is where we begin. David leaned closer, scanning the papers. What do we even know about him anymore? It's been years since he passed. What if all of this just opens old wounds? Old wounds can heal, I replied, my voice firm. But we have to face them first. We owe it to ourselves to know the truth. Sarah took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for a document. What if it's worse than we think? Then we deal with it. Together. I reached across the table, placing my hand over hers. We've come this far. We can't turn back now. As she unfolded the paper, silence enveloped us. Each word felt heavy, laden with memories and secrets. It says here, there's a trust fund, and a property, she stuttered, her eyes wide with disbelief. Why didn't we know about this? Maybe he didn't want us to know, Michael murmured, his voice distant. Or maybe he thought we weren't ready, I countered. But we are now. This is our chance to uncover the truth. David picked up another document, his brow furrowing. There's a clause here. It mentions a family meeting. It was supposed to happen years ago. What? Sarah exclaimed, her voice sharp. Why didn't we ever hear about it? Maybe it was buried with everything else, I said quietly, the pieces of our past beginning to fit together in a way I never expected. But we can bring it to light now. The tension in the room thickened, a mix of anger and sadness swirling around us. It's time for us to reclaim our story, I said, feeling the weight of those words. No more hiding, no more running. As we continued to sift through the documents, I felt the stirrings of something powerful within me. It was as if the past was finally ready to be unveiled, and we were prepared to face it head-on. But then, as we reached the final document, a gasp escaped my lips. It can't be, I whispered, my hands shaking as I held the paper. This changes everything. What is it? David asked, concern etched across his face. It's a letter. From him, I said, my voice trembling. He wrote to us, to all of us. The room fell silent, our breath held in anticipation. What did he say? Sarah urged, her eyes wide. I swallowed hard, my heart racing. He wanted us to know the truth, about everything, and he left us one final message. But I hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I could feel the eyes of my family upon me, their hopes and fears intertwined with my own. "Are you ready for this?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. It might change everything we thought we knew about him and about ourselves. As I prepared to read the letter, I realized that this was our moment of reckoning. The truth was finally within reach, and we would either embrace it or let it tear us apart. "Whatever happens," I said, my voice steady, "we face it together." With that, I took a deep breath and began to read, the past and present colliding in a way I could never have anticipated. The room felt charged with electricity, and I knew deep down that nothing would ever be the same again.